Hey everyone, it is Kevin Henry, the host of the Dental Assistant Nation podcast. So glad that you've joined us today. I'm excited for today's conversation that we are going to have with Cris Duval, a dental hygienist. Cris, how are you?
I am terrific. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
I'm so glad to have you on, and I'm really looking forward to what we're going to talk about today. And if you're watching us on video, you see that there's a lifeguard on duty sign behind Cris, and that's a little teaser for what we're going to talk about. But Cris, tell us a little bit about you before we dive into the topic today.
Oh man, I'm retired clinically, but still very actively involved in writing, coaching, and speaking. And my goal is to help team members, the entire team, save the lives of their patients. Things are so much different now. We have so much information that it's our responsibility to share that with our patients because they don't know what's changed. So that's what I'm passionate about is helping team members increase their value to their patients and to the practice, and then also particularly the dental assistants that we're going to talk about today, that increases their value as a team member, and it's going to bring a much more rewarding practice, if you want to use that word, and it's just going to enrich their whole lives, both just how they feel about what they do, and I contain that it will increase their financial reward when you increase your value to your practice.
Well, I know that is all music to our audience's ears, so that's fantastic. And I want you to tell me a little bit about the lifeguard approach, because I know, as you said, that's something you're very passionate about. Tell me a little bit about what's behind that and what you think dental assistants really need to know about it.
Well, let me tell you about how I came to decide I was going to be a lifeguard for our patients. When I was 14, I was a competitive swimmer, was very good, won almost every race I ever entered. And this one day, it was at our home pool. I swam a race, finished in first, turned around and waited for the other swimmers to finish. And I leaned against the wall of the pool looking out, and I blew a great big bubble. I swam that race with a big wad of bubble gum tucked underneath my tongue. And what's interesting is the lifeguard saw that. And the timer in my lane, who saw it also, was a physician. And the lifeguard got down off her perch and they got together and stopped me on the way out of the pool. And they said, "We just have one question for you. Do you want to live to be an adult?" And
Wow.
I thought, well, of course I do. And they said if I had aspirated that gum during the middle of my race, I would have gone dead in the water. They wouldn't know what caused it, how to help me, and chances are I could have drowned in the pool. But because they were both in relationship with me at my home pool, they cared enough and they took their job description seriously enough to say something to me, which I really appreciated. And I think the big part of that for me to realize at that time was that if they hadn't been in relationship with me, if this hadn't been in my home pool, if they didn't know me, they could have just looked at me and let me walk out of there and said, "Stupid girl. That's gonna catch up with her one day." But, they were in relationship with me, and so when they saw me do something stupid, they said something. So that's why I call my philosophy of care the lifeguard approach, because I have the opportunity, and so does every single team member, and particularly the dental assistants. They have a lot of alone time with the patient as well, with procedures that are delegated to them alone. So if you see something, say something. So I just want to help dental assistants in particular realize how important their role is in patient care and in the health of the practice
Mhm.
and in their health as well.
You know, and I love that whenever you told that story, it's about communication and about relationships, which are 2 things that are absolutely critical in every dental practice. So I love that analogy, and I love that story, and I love your message that you're bringing to dental assistants and the entire dental team with this. And you told me before we went on the air that there were really 3 things that you wanted to get across, to the dental assistants today, and I wanna make sure that I give you the lane to do that because I'm anxious to hear what those are.
Well, first of all, and this is, not particularly part of those 3, but I think it is important for every single person on the dental team, in order for the team and the team's philosophy of care, or basically who they're gonna be for the patients, it's important that every single person on the team decides who they're gonna be for their patient. And I think the dental assistants have such potential to be an educator and a facilitator of moving patients towards health and wellness. And so the first thing is to decide who you're gonna be for your patients. In my case, I decided I was gonna be a lifeguard. Another dental assistant could decide, I wanna be an educator. I wanna tell tell them what we now know because patients don't know what we know. So, um, decide who you're gonna be, and then look at opportunities during your, time with a patient to say, "Hey, did you know we now know here's how important it is for us to be sure and take your blood pressure before we do a restorative appointment." And the dental assistant can do that, or just a variety of other things. But it is deciding who you're gonna be because who you're gonna be literally drives what you're gonna do and
Mhm,
how you're gonna talk to them and how you're gonna relate. Why we're doing this because of this reason. And
mhm,
so you could have a great philosophy of care as a team, but unless every single one of your team members shares that with your patients, they have no idea. And so it's simply saying things like, because we are focused and our philosophy of how we are gonna care for you is that we wanna help save your life because we now know there are so many things that we can see and are involved in your healthcare that can impact whether or not you live a long health span, which is very different from lifespan. Health span is how long you live and you're healthy to carry on the things you wanna accomplish in your life. So, I
I
wanna
love
have a long health span. Yeah,
yeah, I
so
love that distinction there, that's fantastic.
but I think the biggest thing is, oh my gosh, dental assistants, realize your potential. You have huge potential and play such a huge role in the health and wellness of your patients. See, all patients want one of 2 things. They either wanna move towards the benefit of health, or they wanna move away from the consequences of disease.
Mhm,
Now, how you take care of them is exactly the same clinically and in your protocols and your procedures, but how you communicate and how you talk to them, your message to them is totally different. So, one of the first things that as a team that you guys have to know, and particularly the dental assistants have to know, is you guys have to ask one question. And this is a question that if I don't know the answer to, you might as well put a 3-inch piece of duct tape over my mouth because I don't know how to talk to a patient. And that question is, tell me about what you want for yourself.
ooh,
Because
that's a good
unless we know that, we're just assuming what's important to the patient. And have you ever tried, to talk somebody into buying something they don't value? They
Yeah,
don't. They
right.
don't
That's tough.
engage in it. Yeah. So as long as you know what a patient wants, um, you can very easily help engage them in a conversation. If a patient wants health, all your conversation and your verbiage, your communication, what you can tell them about is all around health. So it
That's
makes it very, very clear.
I
So
love that
decide.
question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't even begin to talk because we make so many assumptions in dentistry that we think we know what patients want for themselves. To give you an example, I had a patient that her teeth were falling apart, and I thought, and this was very early on when I worked for Dr. McKay, I thought that she would be motivated by appearance.
Mhm.
But she wasn't at all, and so she was thinking in, "Well, I'm gonna invest in my teeth, but how they look isn't as important to me as how they function." And as
Ah,
soon as I shifted my conversation away from looks to function, she was like, "I'm in, let's do it."
interesting.
And that's a role that solidifying and even in some cases finding out, what it takes for patients to give themselves permission to do something, that is a huge role that dental assistants can play. And one of the ways you can do that is I developed a wants monitor on the route slip so that every single team member could just pick up the route slip, see what is going on today, and then they could look at that wants monitor and see what the patient's motivators are, what their beliefs are. I mean, basically, it tells you how to talk to the patient. So, that's a real advantage to have. If everybody on the team member knows the answer to that question, it just isn't a great question for a hygienist to ask. The whole team needs to know because it drives their conversation.
Well, I can absolutely see that, and then I can absolutely see that whenever you ask that question that you kinda give the patient the space to actually answer it. You kinda go quiet, I'm guessing, and let them talk.
Ask the question and then shut up.
That's a
But
good
a lot of times patients will say, "Well, I don't know." Well, then you can ask, "Well, if you did know, what would it be?" Because they know.
yeah,
They're just not comfortable at this point talking about it, but,
that's
yeah,
good. No, I
yeah,
like that a lot. It what else do you wanna share with our audience? Because I wanna make sure that they have a way to get a hold of you, and we're gonna talk about that
okay.
in just a minute,
Okay.
so
Well, I think, a great way doing this by knowing what your patient's motivators are, talking to them in terms of what they want for themselves. It's really important also to, um, have create an environment with your dentist and your team that they want to invest in you.
well,
Because investing in your dental assistant is gonna bring you great rewards. And so, one of the things I think that, a dentist should invest and a dental assistant being open to learning about is what we now know about the oral systemic link. So, it's just like for hygienists to say, to patients when they come in, "Do you brush and floss?" Well, we now know that brushing and flossing isn't all that it takes to keep your mouth healthy today, do we?
true.
It's about a healthy biofilm. And so I would shift questions that are old information and traditional hygiene questions into more up-to-date, based on science questions. So my question would be, instead of, "Do you brush and floss?" my question is, "Tell me about when your gums bleed." Oh,
There you go.
that's a very different question. But so if the dental assistant, if they take the time to invest in her education, I think it will bring huge benefits. Because, like I said before, patients don't know what has changed. They don't know what we know about what can impact their health and wellness. And if we ignore those clinical signs because we aren't aware, it can lead to a catastrophic result for the patient and leading to illness and, in some cases, even death. So we have got to pay attention to all of this, and your dental assistant plays a key role in your patient's health and wellness, and that leads healthy patients and educated patients seem to choose that for themselves, and then they move into more complex, um, things they wanna do for themselves. So, that benefits the practice, and in the long run, it's gonna benefit the dental assistant if the dentist is smart.
Well, and I
So
think
oh, go ahead.
no, no, I was just gonna say, I think that the dental assistant, anytime that he or she can be proactive and not only asking these questions, but also making sure that the dentist knows that these questions are being asked and what the answers are, I think that that is extremely valuable.
Yeah, we each participate in the patient's health and wellness. So the second thing I would do is ask quality questions.
Okay.
So shift your questions, and I love to help shift questions that are much more meaningful. Like, just one thing I'd like them to try. When they go out to get a patient, instead of saying, "Hi, how are you today? I'm fine, how are you?" which absolutely gives you no information, I would encourage you to, as you're walking the patient back to the operatory, ask them, "Tell me about something great in your life."
Mm,
Because I wanna know what this patient values.
nice. I
And
like
you
that.
never hear a patient say, "Oh, I just put a big check in the bank." It's like, I just had my first granddaughter born," or I'm so excited, my wife just got a clear, um, wellness check as far as her cancer."
Right.
Or, I'm struggling right now with, who knows, whatever.
Yeah,
But it gives you much more information into what this patient values. So, when you decide you're gonna be that patient, that it's important to you to know what the patient values, when you know that answer, that is gonna drive much more health and wellness into the practice. So you can say, "Because you told me you just had a new granddaughter, I bet you wanna be around for a long time to see her grow up, don't
there
you?
you go. I like that.
Well, because of that, I want you to know that you were in the right office, because we're gonna give you the kinda care and pay attention to what's going on in your mouth, because it's all related to how the rest of your body functions and your risks for, disease." So, I'm excited, we can
Nice.
get started on this journey of helping you stay healthy and well for that little granddaughter you now have and for the future ones. So,
Absolutely. That's great. Well, and let's make sure we get to the third one too, because I wanna make
okay,
sure
and
that
the third
I
one
love that.
Okay, the third one is, if you see something, say something. In other words, speak up. The dental assistant spends a lot of time in the mouth, and get yourself aware of what um, possible lesions could be in the mouth. And if you see something and all that time you're spending in their mouth making temporaries or whatever it is you're doing, speak up and go say to your doctor, hey, I see something in here I'm concerned about. Would you come and take a look at it? Or the patient tells them something about, yeah, I would love to do something, but I just don't know what that entails and what that costs. Was it okay with you if I share that desire with our doctor? And, we're here to help you get what you want. So let's
I
talk
like that.
about that.
And I
Yeah,
like asking permission, making sure that they are open to that. I think that's great.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But the
Well,
more you invest in yourself as a dental assistant and what your team as a whole invests in their philosophy of care, it's going to bring huge rewards. First to the patient, the second to the practice. The practice is going to be much more profitable and productive, and it's going to bring you benefits as well as a dental assistant. And the great thing about it is people are going to walk out your door and they are going to want to tell all their family and friends about you. Yeah. And so
well,
I think the bottom line is, as a dental assistant, educate yourself to the role you can play in painting a much bigger picture for patients as who you can be for them.
I love that. And I love that it's on the dental assistant to do that. It's not waiting for somebody to
Absolutely.
tell him or her. It's up to them. So Chris, I love the lifeguard approach. I love what you're doing with this, but I want to make sure our audience knows, where do they find out more information? Where do they reach you? And I know you've got something very exciting that's coming out too.
Yeah, within a couple of months, my book should be out. It's
Nice.
called The Lifeguard Approach: Why Compassion Necessitates Life-Saving Screenings. So it'll be out in a couple months. You can reach me at Cris, Cris, it's Chris without an H, at thelifeguardapproach.com. And our website is being revised at the moment, but it'll soon be open, and that's thelifeguardapproach.com. So
Nice.
thank you for the time you took today to let me talk about what I'm passionate about.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Because here's the thing, Chris. I know what you're passionate about, but I know you're passionate about the dental assistant too. And those are the people we love to have on this podcast. So I'm so glad you came on today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you can't save lives without your dental assistants, that's for sure.
Boy, that's a mic drop moment right there. I appreciate that, and I think you are exactly right. And so, listeners, I want you to hear that message, and I want you to make sure that you really ingest everything that Chris brought today, because a lot of weight is on you, but you have to take the ball and run with it, and make sure that you are equipped to have these conversations and to be listening to what your patient can say. So,
Yep.
Chris, thank you again for being on today. I really do appreciate it. And absolutely, we're going to have all of Chris's information in the show notes, so you can find that down below, wherever you're hearing this podcast. So, uh, Chris, we'll have you back. How about that? After the book comes out, we'll have you back on. How about that?
Sounds perfect.
All right.
Talk to you
Well,
soon.
all right. And thanks to all of you for listening to this episode. We love having you on. We love having people like Chris on. And until next time, Kevin Henry, host of the Dental Assistant Nation, signing off, wishing you nothing but success ahead.